Good morning. We're going to continue with this series. We're going to call it Spine Like a Chain. And if you could begin lying on your back. For those of you who weren't here on Saturday, we'll begin again, and I will reintroduce some of the earliest ideas. So as you're lying here, either with your legs bent, because that's more comfortable for you, either on the floor or even on your bed, if that's how you need to be comfortable. Begin to feel and enter into the places in yourself that are able to rest heavily and fully on the floor, behind you, beneath you. The big bones of your pelvis and your sacrum. And you can notice the shape of the contact that your pelvis and your sacrum make lying on the floor. And then if you bring your attention to your chest, the middle of your chest, there are vertebrae and ribs there that rest fully on the floor. And you can feel that contact there. And imagine the shape of the contact that you make with the floor behind the middle of your chest, your spine, and your ribs. And finally, the back of your head. Your head is very heavy, your skull is very heavy. And there's a particular place that you make contact there. So just feel that contact. Where on the back of your skull? Is it toward the right, toward the left? Is it toward the top of your head or down more toward your chest? And what kind of shape does the weight of your skull make resting on the floor? And if you let go of any extra work in your jaw, around your eyes, your cheeks, your throat, does that change the weight of your skull or your contact with the floor? And if you notice your breathing in your lower belly, and you let go of any holding there, how does that change your relationship between your pelvis and the floor? And now, when you're ready to begin, please bend your knees and stand your feet about shoulder width apart. And begin to rock your pelvis a little bit upward so that your tailbone lifts a little bit away from the floor. The pressure rolls upward towards your low back and your lumbar vertebra come a little closer to the floor. And you let that go. And you roll your pelvis a little downward, rolling down your sacrum and bringing your tailbone a little closer to the floor. And right away, you'll move slowly slowly enough that you can feel the force rolling up through your spine. And then your pelvis, when it rolls down, pulling, tugging on the vertebra of your spine and feeling how far through yourself you can feel the result of this rocking of your pelvis up and down very slowly, using less effort. Maybe put your hands down by your sides and relax your fingers, relax your hands. Maybe your palms are down, maybe they're pointing toward each other, it doesn't matter, just soft. And see if you can let go of any tension in your shoulders, your shoulder blade, your throat, your neck, and feel how your spine rocks your neck and your head in a way that as you roll up, your chin moves away from your chest. As you roll your pelvis down, your chin comes closer to your chest. If you're able to use a little less effort, go a little slower and feel that connection, begin to feel the rocking of the back of your head on the floor as you roll your pelvis upward. And as you roll your pelvis down. And just notice how you're using your breath. Notice if you roll your pelvis up and inhale, or you roll your pelvis down as you exhale. Or are you simply breathing independently of the rolling of your pelvis? And now leave that. Leave it, come back and do nothing, absolutely nothing with your pelvis, with your thighs. And notice your breath in your lower belly. Lower your legs and rest. Notice if there's any change in how your pelvis rests, the middle of your chest, or the back of your head. So we're going to go on now, and this lesson will be lifting your pelvis, and that creates some extension through your back. If you have difficulty in your low back and it's hard for you to lift your pelvis, then rest quite often. You leave your pelvis on the floor through the entire lesson, or just do it in your imagination. So please bend your legs and stand your feet about shoulder width apart, remembering to bring your heels close enough to your buttock that your legs can feel free to move in and out, and your breathing and pelvis are free as well. And slowly begin to lift your tailbone away from the floor. And then rolling your sacrum, lifting from the bottom of your sacrum up toward the top. And then just that lowest lumbar vertebra, the fifth, and then lower. Let it go, dropping your lowest lumbar vertebra, then rolling your pelvis back, your sacrum back down, and bringing your tailbone a little bit closer to the floor. Take a breath. Maybe as you exhale, you want to roll your pelvis, lifting your tailbone upward through your sacrum, your lowest, fifth lumbar vertebra, and then your fourth, lifting those lumbar vertebrae gently and slowly, one at a time, and then returning in reverse order. So if you're up to your third lumbar vertebra or your second, then you drop that vertebra, the second, then the third, then the fourth, then the final. And then you rock all the way down along your sacrum, bringing your tailbone a little closer to the floor. Maybe as you inhale, rolling back once again, like a chain of pearls, one pearl in the chain being lifted, and then the vertebra above and above that, and the next. And then you return slowly in reverse order and notice if it's easier to lift one vertebra at a time as you inhale. So once or twice, you'll roll back and inhale. It'll feel different for some of you. Maybe this is your habit. And lifting each vertebra, taking your time. Even in your imagination, this will work. Rolling up maybe to the top of your lumbar spine. And then exhaling as you lower, one vertebra at a time. Just keeping your effortless awareness, moving with less effort, thinking with less effort, just paying attention as you go down. And then take a breath, do nothing. And now this time, as you roll your pelvis, lifting just your tailbone, then your sacrum, exhaling, just to find out what makes it easier for you. So you're coming and lifting your lowest lumbar vertebra like a chain of pearls, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and on. And then as you lower, this time you'll inhale, feeling how that affects your ability to differentiate and lower one vertebra after another, moving top to bottom until you're resting with your pelvis on the floor. And then just before you lower your legs, rock your pelvis up and down, noticing if it's become easier. Noticing if you feel more movement upward into your chest, above your shoulder blades, below your collarbones, and upward. And now, do you feel your chin moving away from your chest as you press, rolling upward, and then toward your chest as you roll your pelvis downward? And then lower your legs and rest. When you're ready to go on, please bend your knees, put your feet flat. For those of you who are new, we've talked about putting your ankles underneath your knees so that your lower legs are almost perpendicular to the floor, making sure your feet are in good contact with the floor and about shoulder or hip width apart. You might notice one foot tends to be a little further out, or you don't rest as clearly on the bottom of one foot. So you can just take a moment and place your feet, because what I'd like you to do now is lift your pelvis one vertebra at a time, just what's easy, pressing through your feet and leaving your pelvis high. So you found a really comfortable place to leave your pelvis, and you begin to tilt your knees a little bit to the left and back to the middle. If this is a strain for you, you can do this with your pelvis on the floor. But if your pelvis is high and you're tilting your knees to the left, feel how your spine is being turned, how your chest is being turned. Maybe you can feel the pressure coming onto your left shoulder blade. And maybe your eyes move to the left. Maybe your chin moves to the left. For some of you, you'll want to move your chin to the right. And that's fine to do that a couple of times, but then I would like you to intentionally move your eyes and your chin to the left as your knees move to the left, only as far as is comfortable for both, hooking those two movements together, using your breath, coming back to the middle, lowering your pelvis. Maybe leave your knees bent if that's comfortable, and take a rest. So we've had a lot of conversation over these past years about turning your head in the same direction, turning your head in the opposite direction. And I just took a workshop this weekend on spine like a chain, and one woman came up with the answer. When you roll to your side and sit up, a functional activity, you always turn your head in the same direction that you turn your knees. I thought that was brilliant. So now, very slowly and very gently, with your knees bent, your feet flat, you're going to find a place, press through your feet, ground your feet, rolling your pelvis up one vertebra at a time, only as far as is easy for you to maintain the height of your pelvis, and take your knees a little bit to the right and back to the middle. It's fine to do this with your pelvis on the ground. You'll still feel your spine turning. You can still feel and imagine the shifting in your chest. And for those of you that are right-handed, you may feel that you need to let go in your right shoulder and your right shoulder blade in order to feel your chest truly roll onto your ribs and your shoulder on the right. And notice what your head is doing, what your eyes are doing. And if they're not turning to the right with your knees, now is a great time to make that connection. Turning your head, letting go in your jaw. You might find some tension in your jaw, your throat, your neck. And notice if you tend to bring your head down when you roll it to the right. So bringing your head towards your shoulder. And if you like, going slowly when you come back, you move your pelvis, you allow your chest to widen and press into the floor. And you can maintain that length in your neck as you turn your neck to the right and then come back to the middle and looking at the ceiling. And then maybe once or twice more, then come back to the middle, lower your pelvis, lower your legs and rest. This is extension and rotation. Anytime you need to, you can bring your knees to your chest. Anytime you need to, you can take a rest and proceed either just listening or doing the entire variation in your imagination, or very small and very slow. So now if you could bend both your knees again, place your feet so that you can ground your feet and use that pressure coming up through your knees, through your hips, through your pelvis to lift your vertebra like a chain of pearls, one vertebra at a time, finding a place where you're truly comfortable to maintain the height of your pelvis while you tilt your knees to the right and to the left. Going slowly, doesn't have to be a big movement, doesn't have to be a high elevation. Just noticing how your head turns, feeling how your chin can turn with your pelvis. Pay attention to what's happening in the middle of your back as it lies on the floor. Some of you will already be to your upper back, but many of you will be feeling what's happening in the middle of your thoracic, your area, your chest. And when you're ready, you can come to the middle, one vertebra at a time, really noticing how you can lower each vertebra, how much easier it is to find the spaces between the vertebra now. And the last thing, your pelvis and then your tailbone comes down. You can really feel the weight of your pelvis moving on your legs at the hip joints, and then lowering those legs and rest. So many places find their natural mobility and their natural way to interact, all the way from your ankles to your knees, to your hips, to your spine, all the way up into your neck, and eventually we'll get to that place behind your head where your spine meets your skull. And so take a moment now and breathe right into whatever you can feel of the weight of your skull and the place where it rests heavily on the floor and perches atop your spine. That's right, be above your soft palate, right behind your nose. Feel the weight of your heels on the floor, letting go of any tension in your ankles or your calves. And now, please bend your legs and put your feet flat. We have a newcomer, so we'll introduce. You're lying on your back, your knees are bent, your And you're going to bring your arms and make a triangle as we've done. Your palms of your hands will be together. Your elbows are long and your elbows are straight. And your hands are somewhere above your chest, pointed toward the ceiling, palms together, flat. Yeah. Your elbows are long but not tense. And as you begin to lift your pelvis, your tailbone, your sacrum, one vertebra at a time, you move your hands upward toward above your head. Good. And taking your time, you're lowering those vertebrae one precious pearl at a time and bringing your hands downward toward your knees, toward your pubic bone as you lower your spine. So now you know the pattern. Now take your time. Be sure your feet are placed close enough to your buttocks. And you lift your pelvis as you bring your hands upward toward above your head. And then you slowly. Okay, now go down as slow as you came up. Slower. Find those vertebrae. Coordinate the movement. There you go. As you go slower and you coordinate the movement, can you feel some moving maybe between your shoulder blades? Can you feel those places in your chest, in your vertebra that you usually don't feel? But now there's actually rolling on the floor of each vertebra as you slowly raise your hands and your pelvis. Reduce your effort. Notice how when your arms go up, your shoulder blades slide down. And when your hands go down, your shoulder blades are sliding up. And then lower your hands. Rest them on the floor on either side of you. Take a breath. You guys are liking this one. When your arms come down, whenever you get there, lift your spine like a chain, noticing how much easier it is now. And maybe you'll notice that you're beginning to lift the vertebra of your thoracic spine without effort. And then rest. Lower your legs, lower your arms. Rest your weary mind. If your thoughts tend to scatter, maybe just bring your awareness to your breath. Simple, just noticing lightly, feeling your inhalation, your exhalation, allowing your breath to bring you into your body in an easy way. You can notice any movement in your lower abdomen. And again, bend your knees, please. Stand your feet. Place your feet somewhere that it's easy for you to lift your toes from the ground. And begin to rock your pelvis like that, pushing only with your heels. You don't lift your pelvis now, you just leave your pelvis resting on the floor That's it. And press. So you're oscillating. For those of you who know that word and or have done those lessons, you're on your heels, you're pressing, and you're letting that pressure go through your whole skeleton. Yeah, okay. And then pause a moment. And straighten your knees a bit so that you have about 15 degrees of flexion in your knees. And flex your feet. And then flex your feet so that you can push from that position, pushing through your heels and rocking yourself, rocking your pelvis up and down. I did not have an easy time with this. So if you're struggling, don't worry, it got easier for me. So some of you have a very big 15 degrees. I don't know if that's why that is, but. And then pause again and lengthen your legs all the way. And now, David, he says, he changes. Sometimes he says, just push through your heels. See if you can flex your feet and just press through your heels and rock yourself through your whole, and feel your skeleton rocking. Okay. And now he also does it. So do that for a little bit. Yeah. And you can also play with just flexing your feet and pointing your feet and seeing if you can rock your skeleton from your feet in that way. Some of you may find it easier one way than the other. Good. All right. And then when you have done that to your heart's content, please let me know by bending your legs, standing your feet, and just staying quietly there so I know where everyone's at. Yes, it might be a good time to bring your knees to your chest and lengthen the tissues. Think of the weight of your thighs, the weight of your legs. And rather than forcing, think of allowing those small muscles between each vertebra and those longer muscles to just lengthen. And you can use your breath. All right. And then lengthen your legs down. Put your legs together. And flex and extend your feet like this with your legs joined. Your legs are down and together, if that's possible for you. And then you're just flexing and extending your feet. And just feel how that goes through you. And feel if you can let go of any trying, any efforting. Just allowing. Feeling if that's a little easier in this position. Finding your rhythm. Some of you will like to do it quickly. Some of you will like to do it slowly. You can try, if you're moving very quickly, you can try moving a little slower. And if you're moving slower, see what happens if you move a little quicker. And then go back to your favorite pace. Good. Leave it. Bend your legs. Put your feet flat. Somewhere where you can lift your toes and forefoot away from the floor. Turn your head to the right. Only what's easy and comfortable. And rock your pelvis and your spine by just pushing through your heels. Easy does it. Feel what's happening in your shoulder on the right and your neck on the right. Allow yourself to lengthen there. And then whenever you're ready, you can roll, you can stop, you can roll back to the middle, kind of doing that all together. And then you can turn your head to the left and lifting your toes, your forefeet, just rocking yourself. Feel how different it is from one side to the other. If you're lifting and lowering your toes, try just leaving your toes up. Try leaving your toes up and pushing through your heel. Just try. You might need to move your heels a little bit further away. I don't know. But see if you can oscillate your entire skeleton, just pushing through your heels. And Terry, you could, let me see who's got this really well. Oh, she left. Pamela has it. Why don't you pin Pamela so you can see what she's doing if you're confused. And yeah, it's just that pushing. Everyone's confused. Okay, or you're not sure. Don't worry. Whatever you're doing is you're learning. If you're just worrying that you're not doing it right, don't worry, just do it. And everyone come and rest a moment. Lengthen your legs, take a rest. Because what will happen if you lengthen your legs and you allow yourself to rest and you observe your contact with the floor. Feel the width of your upper back. Feel how wide you've become, how heavy your shoulder blades can rest and your shoulders can rest on the floor now. Feel the movement in your lower abdomen now. As you breathe in and you breathe out, how it's changed. So these movements have the potential to help us to reorganize ourselves in the most fundamental ways. And you'll feel that by whether or not you're doing it perfectly, you'll feel it by how differently you're lying on the floor. And eventually how differently you'll feel yourself in standing. So when you feel ready, we'll give you a more of a rest. More rest. It's very important to rest and allow yourself to integrate the learning that you've been doing. And throughout your day, we often have so many activities, so much stimulation, but we get overloaded and it's very difficult to be present for what we're actually doing. So this time of doing nothing will allow you to be present as we move forward with the lesson. So when you're ready, please bend your knees and stand your feet. Once again, we'll be playing with our breath, so you'll lift your spine very slowly, using your skeleton, using very little effort, grounding your feet as you inhale. Take your time and feel each vertebra lifting and lowering, inhaling as you lift, slower, 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 and exhaling as you lower. Take your time. Give yourself the gift of time. All the time in the world. You needn't hurry. Slowly, 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 slowly. And now the next time, exhale as you press through your feet. Exhale as you ground yourself. You don't have to go quickly. It doesn't have to be a big breath. Just feel which is easier. As you exhale and you lift one vertebra at a time, is it easier or more difficult for you to feel each vertebra? And stay with the movement all the way as you lower each vertebra down. And then pause, maybe with your knees bent. Pause with your pelvis lowered. And your legs down. Go ahead and lower your legs. If you're having trouble with any kind of discomfort in your hamstrings or your low back, go ahead and bring your knees to your chest. You can wiggle around a little bit if you like. And for those of you that are resting, notice any changes in the contact of your spine with the floor. When you're ready to go on, bend your knees, stand your feet. With your head turned to the right, you'll begin to slowly lift one vertebra at a time, like a chain of pearls. Feeling what that's like for you, going slowly, only as far as it's comfortable. There's really nothing to be gained by pushing yourself further than how comfortable you can be. Even if you're only lifting a little bit, there's a change of the pressure upward through your skeleton. And that subtle change awakens your brain and your nervous system and allows you to detect and change unnecessary and not useful habits. We each have a bias with our head, our neck, and how we use our eyes. And that has a huge influence on our spine. So by gently, softly exploring these connections of habit, you'll find the carriage of your head, the turning of your neck, and the use of your eyes improving. So now, slowly bring your head back to the middle. Take a breath. Turn your head to the left and very gently lift one vertebra at a time, taking your time. Simply lifting and lowering each vertebra sequentially. Notice where you can reduce effort. In your hands, in your arms, your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, your jaw, your jaw, your jaw. When you have explored that to your own satisfaction, bring your head to the middle. And lift and lower your pelvis, noticing if that movement hasn't become lighter and a bit easier. Pause with your pelvis resting on the floor. Lift your pelvis as we have done, one vertebra at a time, leaving it lifted somewhere easy, somewhere comfortable. And push your lower belly out as you exhale. Pulling your lower belly in as you inhale. You leave your pelvis at a very comfortable height, doesn't matter how high. As you exhale, you press your lower belly big toward the ceiling and down toward your pelvic floor. And then as you inhale, you draw your lower belly in and you'll feel your chest expanding. Once again, exhaling, bringing your lower belly out, and inhaling, pulling your lower belly in. And then slowly, one vertebra at a time, lowering your pelvis, lengthening your legs, taking a rest. Yeah. Oh. So with your legs long, pushing your heels against the floor, start rocking your pelvis. Taking an inhale, feel what happens to the movement in your chest. And as you exhale, feel what happens to the movement in your thoracic spine between your ribs. And then rest. Please bend your knees, stand your feet. You can do this with your pelvis down if you're tired, but if not, lift your spine like a chain, leaving your pelvis in the air. And cross your arms across your chest, your right arm over your left, on top of your left. So your elbows are resting. Your right elbow is closer to your chin than your left elbow is underneath it. And then use your left hand to pull on your right shoulder, rolling yourself to the left and then rolling yourself back a few times, leaving your knees facing the ceiling. So your legs are quiet, your knees are not moving. Your knees are not moving, your legs are standing still, and that allows your chest to roll and come back. So just feel how your right hand can help you lift your right shoulder blade. Feel how the pressure comes on to your ribs on the left. You can feel your spine turning. You can allow your head to turn, your eyes to turn. You can feel your pelvis rolling into your left leg a little bit at that hip joint, leaving your left leg standing and quiet. And notice what your eyes are doing and let your jaw, your throat, your neck be soft, and then Come back to the middle, maybe lower your arms, lower your pelvis, rest a moment. Maybe leave your knees bent if that's okay with you. Take a breath. Cross your arms in the other direction. So your left arm is closer to your chin than your right. And you're going to use your right hand to roll. You're lifting your pelvis to a comfortable height. And then you'll roll your knees are bent. Even if you're not lifting your pelvis up, you might want to bend your knees and put your feet flat. Kathy McKinney. Bend your knees, put your feet flat. Yeah. And then you can leave your pelvis on the ground, but you're rolling. Now you're rolling to your right. If you are right hand dominant, those ribs are typically shorter. So take your time to feel the rolling onto your ribs, to allow those ribs to lengthen away from each other. Use your eyes and your head and the direction of where you're looking to allow yourself to lengthen through the right side of your ribs, the back of your ribs, and even closer. If you go slowly as you turn your head, you can allow the movement in your upper spine as you press, as you turn, and then come back, lower your pelvis. When you go on, you can cross your arms whatever way is most comfortable for you. Lift your pelvis, whatever height is most comfortable for you, comfortable for you, and begin to rock yourself right and left. Lifting your pelvis, turning your head with your shoulders, using your hands to help yourself rock gently from one side to the other. That's right. You begin to feel that spiral through yourself. Really beautiful. And you can press with your opposite foot. So as you turn to your left, you're grounding your right foot. As you turn to your right, you're grounding your left foot. This could change your world. We're going to rock your world, change the way you walk. Leave your knees pointing toward the ceiling. Ambika, quiet your legs. Let your torso roll both ways. It's going to be harder one way than the other. So go slower and feel your pelvis rolling in on your hip. This might be your moment. Press through the opposite foot, keeping your legs pointed toward the ceiling. Good. And now everyone just rest a moment. Come to the middle, lower your legs. Breathe. Feel your contact with the floor. Feel the width of your chest and allow your shoulder blades to drop. Allow your jaw to be easy, your throat to be open, your head to be heavy. Feel the weight of your pelvis and the weight of your legs, your arms, the tip of your tailbone moving upward through your sacrum, the way that your lumbar spine rests close or farther away from the floor, your lowest ribs, or your diaphragm is quietly moving up and down, the middle of your chest, your upper chest, your neck, your head. Please bend your knees, put your feet flat. One last time. starting at the very tip of your sacrum, taking all the time in the world, lifting first your tailbone, your sacrum, each vertebra of your spine, feeling how easily they lift, how high they lift. And then lowering one vertebra at a time, noticing how much more able you are to distinguish one vertebra from the next. And then whenever you're ready, you can roll to your side, come to sit, and then to stand. Take your time. So come and stand for a moment. You can do this in sitting as well, or some of you are going to do it in lying down. That's just fine. So you're going to feel the bottoms of your feet and the contact that they make with the floor. Feel your ankles and the shape that you are. Feel the way your heel rests on the floor, the inside of each foot, the outside of each foot, your toes. And when you let your feet fully contact the floor, how close are they together? What's the feeling in your knees now? And then traveling up through your legs, can you imagine and feel those hip sockets and how your pelvis rests through your right hip and your left hip? And then what do you do with your belly when you're trying to feel your hips? And then if you let it go and you let yourself drop into the ground, what does that do? And then feel how your spine raises up from your top of your sacrum. Feel your chest in relation to your hips now. The feeling in your shoulders and your shoulder blades, the middle of your chest, you can imagine it maybe getting longer, and the top of your head coming a little closer to the sky. What does that do to your knees and your ankles and your hips? And then just letting go in your jaw, feeling the back of your head, and opening your eyes, finding your horizon with your eyes. Notice what happens to your breath. And then go for a little walk, feeling your hips, feeling your knees, feeling your upper chest. And thank you very much. Oops, I did something. Hold on. Recording. Stop.